Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengal fan on most of the major platforms, and I am joined by Sam Snyder of Primetime Sports Talk. And we are going to do a Week 5 preview as the Bengals travel to Baltimore for their toughest challenge of the season. So, as usual, we're going to do it in the same format we always do. What do I feel good about? What do I not feel good about? And we're going to start with the what I don't feel good about. And I've got one called, it's the number one, the Baltimore defense and our offensive line. I mean, 15 sacks given up. This is a team that loves to blitz. That worries me.
Yeah, I agree, and it's going to be a tough task. And Geno was on the injury report today, and that's tough. I'm sure he's going to play, but right. Just the fact that he's banged up concerns me a little bit. I hope we continue to employ the Fred Johnson checking in as an eligible receiver. Right. To give us 6 guys, because we have enough receivers to get down the field that we can afford to do that. We can afford to bring in another offensive lineman and make it 6 if that's what we got to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. It obviously won't be a surprise because we did it last week and Harbaugh will be able to prepare for it. But definitely our O-line concerns me. And I'm calling out the coaches right now. You guys got to scheme something else up. You got to come up with new wrinkles every week. So help our guys out. The next thing I have is our D-line. And the reason why I have that there is I really believe when you look at the first 4 games as a whole, I think they've underperformed. I mean, we've played some pretty depleted offensive lines. I mean, we only have 8 sacks, and we need to keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket. And we were not able to do that with Tyrod Taylor. We weren't able to do that with Baker Mayfield. We certainly weren't able to do that with Carson Wentz. Minshew kind of got out. So, I mean, this is Dunlap and Hubbard and Lawson. You've got to keep Lamar in, and this concerns me.
Yeah, I think we might as well go ahead and address the elephant in the room. There's a big issue with Carlos Dunlap. He showed up for work, was not spoken to prior, and found out basically on a piece of paper that Carl Lawson is the starter now, which was not just a surprise to him, but a surprise to most Bengal fans, especially anybody that's watching this that has not heard. And Dunlap is not happy about it.
Right.
And I don't think he should be. I mean, he's been with the team for a very, very long time.
Right.
With all of that said, Carlos has not been the Carlos that we know. He's played 72% of the snaps. Lawson has played 57. So they're both in there a lot. But, you both have 3 hurries. But Carlos has a number of missed tackles.
Well, so does Lawson. So
yeah, but not as many. Not as many this season so far.
Well,
so that's an issue, and of course it goes back to us, showing our allegiance to guys that got us here and have done so well. But there's a certain point where you have to say, well, maybe it really is time to turn the page. And Lawson has played so good this year. I think it's less of Dunlap being demoted and more about Lawson being promoted because he's played so well.
Right. Well, we'll see. Maybe it'll kick him in the ass, and get him to step it up a little. I mean, I certainly think that, like, when you look at somebody like Aaron Rodgers, who's really kind of stepped it up when he got no help in the draft, maybe that Jordan Love pick in the first round kind of told him to, hey, I better, now or never kind of thing. And I think maybe this might have, because these kind of things always work one of 2 ways. Either you can sulk and be all, act like a baby about it, or you can get in there and show them how wrong they were to do that. And I hope that he chooses the latter of the 2 and shows up and really just has a dominant game, because his pass tipping abilities and things like that are huge. And we need him. I mean, we definitely need him, whether even if it's your depth charts. I don't, I know that they're there, but you could be the second on the depth chart. You're going to be rotated in, and you're going to have your chance to make plays. So it's just an ego thing about not being listed as the starter.
I fielded so many questions today about this,
Right.
and my answer to everyone was, well, it's not like Carlos Dunlap is not going to play.
Right. It's not like they benched him or they're going to have him as a healthy scratch.
No.
Right.
And in fact, he might still end up with more snaps than Lawson.
Right.
I mean, he very well might. That it wouldn't surprise me in the least. And as far as the rest of the line, like you mentioned, I'm sure we'll get to more injury report stuff later. I know I said week 5 before the season started for Geno,
right,
but I'm not feeling good about it.
No, and he was next on my list. I said we need Geno to help stop the run. Daniel's not going to be there for the next couple of weeks for sure.
Nope.
I don't think we see Daniels until after the bye week, to be honest with you. I think they might pull them out. His 3 games, 4 games, and then you're at your bye. I think they'll buy him the extra rest. So, I mean, we could really use Geno in there to help stop the run because they're going to try to run right up the middle on us. I mean, they're just going to pound it and pound it and pound it again. That's what the Ravens do. They're running back heavy, and they're going to throw Ingram at us and everything. It's that concerns me.
I don't think a lot of people that would watch this, especially fantasy players, would realize that the Ravens are actually 3rd in the NFL in total rushing yards. And it's only surprising because, when you look at what Mark Ingram has done, it's not a whole lot.
Yeah, but Lamar Jackson's numbers get figured into the running game, and that's what skews
Lamar's got like 235 yards rushing so far over 4 games. That's you can't sneeze at that.
What I mean? That's another running back. You think about it. That's what'd you say, 235? So that's about 60 yards a game. That's another.
I know everybody's looking at the injury report and saying he didn't practice on Wednesday. He didn't practice on Thursday. I'm speaking to anybody watching this. If you think Lamar Jackson is not going to play on Sunday, you're delusional.
Oh yeah, no,
he's going to play. He was out today with a knee and an illness, but they know in Baltimore that everything runs through them, runs through Lamar especially. Right. So if he wants to go, he'll go.
Right. So the next thing I have is I'm going to lump these into 2. I have 2 players that concern me because we have trouble with these type of players. The first one is Mark Andrews, obviously, because we just struggle with tight ends. And the other one is Hollywood Brown. Lamar missed 2 touchdowns to Hollywood Brown in the Kansas City game, and he narrowly missed him last week for a touchdown in the Washington game. He's going to start hitting. Eventually, he's going to connect with Hollywood Brown. And wouldn't it be the week where we play him, where he torches somebody on our secondary? So it just concerns me because they've been so close, and they want to kind of get him in the game, get Lamar throwing to wide receivers more. So those 2 players concern me a lot. And then I only have one more thing after that, but go ahead and comment on.
Yeah, and both of those guys were limited in practice this week, but once again, I'll go back to I think they're going to play. Mark Andrews it was like a deep bruise in his thigh.
Yeah.
And Hollywood, I think, was just kind of banged up.
I'm trying to see if they limited practice. Yeah.
So it's just kind of with Lamar is not, he's not the greatest quarterback. He's not the greatest, he's not the greatest passer.
Right, exactly.
But every once in a while, he has that game where he's really on and he starts hitting guys. And obviously, the people you just described, Mark, are 2 of the biggest Bengals weaknesses.
Right.
A tight end over the middle and a wide receiver that goes deep.
Right.
Especially if you got Darius Phillips on Hollywood, that scares me a little bit.
Yeah, it scares me a lot of it. And that kind of leads into my last one, which was the 2-minute defense. Okay. And I'm going to quote John Sheeran here pointed out, and I hadn't lumped the two minutes together, but he said that in the last 2 minutes of both halves last week, 137 yards on 12 plays. That's what we allowed in the last 2 minutes. And I pointed out, I harped in our recap video about how we gave up. I mean, but Jacksonville gifted us and used their timeouts while we had the ball. We scored, and then in like 40 seconds, we let them march down into field goal range with no timeouts. Gardner Minshew and this was so. I mean, if you do that with Baltimore, you're going to be looking at a touchdown each time. That 2-minute defense has got to tighten up. Absolutely has to tighten up. So
yeah, I think we need to come up with a variation of the prevent defense. The prevent defense is it's pretty defined. Like if you look it up, if you Google it, you anybody that's watching this will know what it is. What I think is we need to keep our front seven the same, and let the DBs all drop back. And so you've got half the field. You've got your DBs dropping back in prevent, but you've still got your front seven rushing the quarterback, your linebackers not playing a zone, picking up guys off the line of scrimmage and out of the backfield. So you're still being aggressive, but the prevent part is your DBs and your safeties dropping back to make sure a touchdown isn't scored. It still might burn you, but it's better than just letting somebody dink and dunk all the way down.
And then we miss tackles and this. So we've got to tackle. That's part of it too. We take bad angles. And this goes back. This is way before Zach. I had this complaint about the Bengals under Marvin Lewis. We were the worst to close out a half, to close out a game. We would just get away from what we did. You play 28 minutes of great ball, and then you all of a sudden look like you forgot what you were doing for 2 minutes, and you give up. Like I always say, we work so hard to get our scores, and then we give one up so easily. We just gift wrap it. It drives me nuts. So this goes. This isn't just Zach Taylor. This goes back to Marvin Lewis. It's something that's plagued this team for a long time.
I will say that it's something that every NFL team does. And it's not just us. Every fan of every team bitches and complains about running the prevent and the end of quarters and halves. Otherwise, why would there be so many, field goal kicks at the end of games to decide?
Belichick's teams don't do that.
Wins and losses, but you see plenty. So a lot of teams do it unless, like I said last week, unless they have really, really good defenses, or
good coaching.
Yeah, true.
Coaching, because you look at Belichick and all those years with Brady, they were masterful at scoring right before the half and ending the half on their score, and then getting the ball to start the second half and scoring again. So all of a sudden you got hit with back-to-back scores. They were masterful at it. They did it all the time. And I always said, that's something we've got to start doing. And we never do it. We always botch it.
Right. Well, I think the important thing is they were masterful because when they got down there, they wasted as much time as they could. And against Jacksonville, we could have done the same thing. Once they burned all their timeouts and helped us out, we were inside the 5-yard line. You can run it up the gut and get stopped and let 20 seconds tick off the clock and then call a timeout.
Right.
So that these guys don't have 45 seconds to a minute to possibly come back down the other way.
Yeah. But we've been so shaky in the go ahead. We've been so shaky in the red zone. We had to take the touchdown when we could get it.
It's gambling.
It's
a complete gamble. I get it. And you mentioned the tackling. I really hope that Mackenzie Alexander is back this week. He practiced a little bit. He was limited. He was really banged up before the Jags game.
Right.
That's why he didn't play. But he is, I don't think people realize how important he is as far as covering the slot receiver which this week is going to be Willie Snead, who's sneaky.
Right.
He's very Cole Beasley. He's very Julian Edelman. We need a good slot cornerback on him. But he's also important because Mackenzie Alexander is arguably the best tackler on this team.
Right.
So defensively, if we can get him out there, we should.
Right.
But we've talked enough about what we don't feel good about.
Right. No, and Mackenzie Alexander, Geno were the two I had highlighted on the injury list. So
of course.
All right. Well, let's get to the positive here.
Let's do the good stuff.
Let's do the good stuff. Always finish with the feeling good. Okay, what am I feeling good about? Well, the first thing I'm feeling good about is the chemistry with the receivers. I really think Burrow makes you feel good about that. That's one of the things I really feel good about. The other thing I have is that Baltimore does surrender yards. Okay, they gave up 275 to Watson. They gave up 314 to Haskins. Granted, Haskins got a big chunk of that at the end of the game, but Burrow has 3 straight 300-yard games. We're going to move the ball. We're going to get some yards. So provided where our offensive line is able to take care of the blitz, we're going to do that. So that's something I feel good about.
Yeah, I totally do too. And I wrote down the same thing. Excuse me. And especially that Baltimore is particularly bad against the short passes. Right. Which Burrow has been utilizing often with Tyler Boyd and with his tight ends. We didn't even mention the great great catch by Ethan Carter last week,
right?
Which says they've got a little trust in him. But Baltimore is particularly bad against the short passes, and on their injury report, I think I saw that Jimmy Smith is having issues. So we're going to have a chance to go downfield too. And Boyd and AJ Green are both Ravens destroyers. Like they both just perform so admirably against that team. Obviously not when we got killed 49-13 last season, but they do really well. So I agree with you. I think it's encouraging to look at what Burrow is going to be able to.
That is a picture signed by Tyler Boyd, and he not only signed it, he put 4th and 12 because that's the spike on the ball on that play. Yeah. So I wrote the 4th and 12. So that you mentioned Boyd, and that's the game. Obviously, I mean, Ravens fans will never forget. They were on their way to the postseason until that.
Oh yeah.
So
and we ruined it.
Yeah, and AJ's had some monster games, and that's another thing I have. If AJ's going to break out, this would be a great week to have a huge play. He's had some monster games against this team. I remember when Stephen Smith, when he threw one of the guys to the, battled for the ball, came down with it, knocked the other guy to the ground, and walked into the end zone.
Did the one with the turnaround?
Yeah. So
where he caught it, knocked a guy down, did a turnaround, knocked another guy down, and went.
Yeah. So I don't want to be too much of a Steeler fan living life in the rearview mirror, but it would be nice to see AJ add another chapter to his legacy against Baltimore because he's had some really big games against them.
Well, it's gonna happen, Mark, because I mean we slagged him a little bit on the recap last week, and I think I want to make it clear to anybody that's watching that neither one of us thinks AJ is washed up or he's not gonna or he's not gonna come back. It's just gonna be we're just waiting patiently for that game where he just explodes, and it's gonna happen.
Well, and what did I say at the end? I said perhaps he develops some more chemistry, has a big second half, and signs a team-friendly deal and stays. So I'm still holding out hope that he's a Bengal for life and he doesn't go anywhere. So
completely.
The other thing I have is, we talk about our offensive line has given up 15 sacks, but Lamar Jackson's been sacked 11 times. That's not that far off our number. So if our defensive line can do, because like I said, they've underperformed, if they can step up and do what they've got to do, I mean, Lamar Jackson's there. I mean, he's 11 sacks. That's 4 less than Burrow. And everybody bashes us. So That surprised me when I saw 11. I expected it to be a single digit. So
I think it goes back to what I said earlier. We're not the only team dealing with offensive line issues.
Right.
Everybody, literally everybody.
You and I were online together watching the end of the Patriot game. Okay, Brady was harassed the entire time. He had 3 knockdowns, serious knockdowns in the first half alone. He was under tremendous pressure the entire game. So this is Tom Brady. This is a better offensive line on Tampa Bay, and they're still having problems. Now, granted, they were playing the Bears, which get at the quarterback, but still, it just shows you that it's not. Everybody highlights that we're getting Burrow killed, but you could watch a guy 20 years older than Brady who's running for his life tonight. So
there's tons. It's just I've told people a million times, if I had a kid right now, and I don't, that I know of,
right?
If I had a kid right now, I would feed him everything and be like, you're going to be an offensive lineman in the NFL and make trillions of dollars.
My DNA precludes that. I hear a funny story. I gave my mom grief because I said, if you had told me that I went outside and kicked a football every day, I could punt. And this was when Dan Fouts and the Chargers had their Air Coryell offense, and they never punted. I mean, they could literally go a whole game without punting because they scored so many points. And I said to her, this guy punted once in a game. He's making millions of dollars a year. Nobody ever told me. Instead, my mom had me playing baseball and basketball. And she said, well, I wanted you to get a taste of everything. I said, if I could have just focused on one, I could have been an NFL kicker, and it would have been so. But right. You could feed my kid everything in the world. I don't have the DNA to grow him into an offensive lineman.
Right. Well, I mean, I would try. I would try. Like I'd be trying to cultivate foie gras. It's just there's such a lack of good offensive linemen in the NFL, and Bengals fans seem to think that we're the only team having that issue. No, we are not.
No,
we are not. Everybody is having that issue. Right. So, the way our offensive line played last week, I know it was the Jaguars, but it was still encouraging, and I think we can build on that.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, with all that said, what's your prediction? You want me to go first, or you want to go first?
You go first this time.
Okay. Now, last year we managed only 1 sack and no takeaways from the Ravens, and Lamar's only been intercepted once this year, so it's not like he's throwing tons of interceptions. I think the Bengals, they're a 2-point underdog. I think they go 5-0 against the spread this week. I think they continue their winning ways on the spread. But I don't think they bring this one home. I think they come up a little short. I've got them 26-20. And the reason why I've got the 26 is I've got the Ravens. The Ravens have one of the biggest offensive weapons in football that nobody ever talks about is Justin Tucker. I mean, they get to the 40-yard line, they're in field goal range. I mean, it's literally, and they have no problem kicking it. So I've got them down for 4 field goals and 2 touchdowns. So that's where I got the 26-20. And I want to remind everybody, I said last week that the Bengals would have 3 touchdowns and 3 field goals with 30 points. And we had 3 touchdowns and 4 field goals. So I was only off by the 1 field goal.
I can't remember what I said, but we were both very
close. Yes.
We were both awfully close.
So, I've got a 26-20 Ravens. Unfortunately, I'm going to be real, and I think we come up short, but I do think we cover. I like them. I'm going to tease them, and I like them with the 2 touchdowns.
I agree with you that the Bengals will definitely cover the spread again. 14 points is a lot, especially in the NFL. I mean, I know the last time we played these guys, it was 49-13. It's rare for a blowout of that proportion.
But the time before, our other game against them was a close game in Baltimore. We played them very close. So
we always have played them well. Our guys get up for it. But yeah, I think the Ravens defense is tough. I think the Bengals offense is way better than people give them credit for.
Right.
And I already mentioned how I feel about the Ravens defending the short and mid-range pass, which I think Burrow can take advantage of, as long as they don't try to game plan him to constantly throw the ball way down the field. I don't think Mixon is going to have a good game. He's probably going to end with, 60 yards and a 3.7 yards average.
Oh, it's going to be 18 carries for like 58 yards or something.
Yeah.
It's going to be, and he's going to get blown up a bunch of times in the backfield.
Yeah, because we'll fall behind. So what I have down, because of our defense, I've got Ravens 33, Bengals 24.
Okay. So you have a little higher scoring game than I do.
I do, but at the same time, boy, that's nowhere near a 14-point spread.
No. And
it's I'm talking 9 points. I think we'll keep it interesting. Probably get a touchdown late where they're saying, the announcers are like, well, maybe the Bengals are back into it, even though we know it's probably out of reach. But I think we're going to put up a really nice fight.
Yeah, I agree. I always think about like the week 2 Browns game. We were like at the 12.5 point at game time, and I teased it. I had 18.5. I was never worried. I mean, we stayed, close enough to where, to where we that was a winner. So, all right. Well, there you have it. We will be back with a recap right after the game this week. We'll put that up, and hopefully, you know what? I'd love to be wrong. I would love to do the thing and have the Bengals pull this game out. And but I'm just, we have to be real on these things. We can't always.
I would be.
If you want Homer stuff, you can go to Bengals.com and watch the radio guys, because they'll tell you everything. That Sun's great, so we have to be real on this one. So
I would be thrilled to be wrong.
Yes. So hopefully they prove us wrong. And with that, I will say, hoo day, everybody, and we will see you after the game on Sunday. Take care, everybody.